What's going on, Ravens fans? Happy Wednesday morning to you. You're watching the Ravens Rundown, brought to you by Prize Picks, and you also need to pay attention to this report. Adam Schefter tweeted over the weekend an article written by Jeff Legwold, which has 7 prospects to keep an eye on that seem to be rising up draft boards when talked to the insiders across the National Football League. And Jeff has a proven track record with this exact article. He put it out last year, and he mentioned Ahmed Mimbu in that article, also mentioned Gray Zabel, which if you flash back to the beginning of the 2025 pre-draft process, nobody really thought Mimbu was a lock to go top 10, and a lot of people probably did not see Gray Zabel going in the first round, let alone top 20. So he's been right before. There's reason to believe he's going to be right again. So we're going to tell you 7 prospects he's got on his report this year. After the first 3, those are really where I think the options will start for the Baltimore Ravens. Guess what? We got exciting news because we're going to be live tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern for our company-wide Chat Sports mock draft. It is my favorite thing we do as a company every single year. So hope you guys are hanging out with us. Make sure you subscribe, have those notifications on as well. So that way when we do go live, you can come in here and join us. We'll have all 32 channels making picks tomorrow. See who I've got the Ravens taking at number 14. All right, let's start with Monroe Freeling, the offensive tackle out of Georgia. Like I said just about 30 seconds ago, the first 3 guys on this list I don't think necessarily pertain to Baltimore, but we're going to talk about them anyway. Freeling is a talented pass blocker with an impressive frame and great athletic traits. Moves very well for his size as well. However, even though he's got a lot of size to him, definitely needs a little bit more power, especially in the run game. And I think Freeling is one of those players in this NFL draft that is kind of bust-proof. Like, I just look at him, I watch the film, I watch the tape, and I see a guy that I think is going to be a really, really good pro for years in the National Football League. Now, if I say bust-proof, it does not mean that I think this guy's going to be a future Hall of Famer. I just mean it. I feel like there's a good chance this guy's a really, really great career. However, Baltimore does not have a need for tackle, so I don't think Freeling is going to be on the board for the Ravens. Do the Ravens need to draft an offensive tackle? Give me a yes or no. I'm not saying in the first round. I'm just saying in general. Let me know your answer down below in the comments section. Let's talk safety. How about Dylan Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon who seems to be skyrocketing up draft boards? In fact, some people saying he might be going close to top 15. Why? Well, he's a very good athlete. Willing in run support, can play over the top, has ball skills, improved tackling. Like, there's so many things to like about him. Has some things to work on, at times. Too willing, keeps eyes on the quarterback, but 96 tackles, 2 interceptions, 7 pass breakups. This dude was all over the field. And I think he's going to be a stud. I think he's going to be a very, very good player. However, the Ravens addressed safety in the first round last year. They added Jalen Hawkins in free agency. They obviously already have Kyle Hamilton. That's probably the unit that's the least of their worries, in my opinion. We got another offensive lineman. Max Ihanicher, the offensive tackle out of Arizona State. And again, this will be the last prospect we talk about today that I don't think really has a great chance to go to Baltimore. He's an interesting prospect nonetheless because he was born in Nigeria, did not start playing until 2021. Impressive size, good mobility, but because of his late entrance to the game of football, definitely still raw a little bit. And it shows. I think at this point, he's a shoo-in to be a round 1 pick. I kind of see him going somewhere in like the mid-20s, anywhere from 24 to 27. But again, as I expressed with Freeling, the Baltimore Ravens do not need tackle. The position, though, they do need is the wide receiver one. And that's where we will start with a realistic option in one, Mr. Ted Hurst, the Georgia State wide receiver. A guy who's pretty polarizing in this draft. It feels like you either love him or you think he's going to be a bust. He's a big play threat, make guys miss, winning contested catches. Also forced a lot of tackles this last season, improved in that, like creating yards after the catch. But a lot of people are worried because he plays his football in the Sun Belt Conference at Georgia State, and he's jumping all the way to the National Football League. What they're not worried about, though, is the athleticism. That is apparent with a 9.91 RAS score. 40-yard dash, 4.42, great splits as well, broad jump, just under 10 feet. And he produces at that level in the Sun Belt, right? Back-to-back seasons of, 1,000 yards receiving, just about. He combined for 1,965 yards and 15 touchdowns over the last 2 years, over 127 catches. And I could see the Ravens legitimately having a lot of interest in Ted Hurst. Late day 2 if needed. Um, I think if they pass on wide receiver in round 1, pass on wide receiver in round 2, and Ted Hurst is there, he's available, by the time they're picking in the 3rd round, man, do not be surprised if his name is on the card that they are turning in. Which round do you think the Ravens should choose a wide receiver in? You let me know your answer down below in the comment section. Weigh in for me, Ravens fans, and let me know what you think. Today's show is brought to you by our great friends over at Prize Picks, also known as America's #1 sports picks app. With playoff basketball finally here, there's no better time to cash in with our friends at Prize Picks. We had a couple of playing games last night, and I'll tell you this, the app is really easy to use. All you got to do is pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. If you're a hoops guy, you can go with points, rebounds, assists, blocks, or three-pointers. If you're more of a seam head, you could choose hits, home runs, or strikeouts. Playing games started last night. They continue on tonight with Philly against Orlando. I'm going to take them more on Jalen Suggs, 2.5 three-pointers made. And give me the less on playoff P for 21.5 points for the Philadelphia team. One thing I love is the new social feeds feature where you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups with a single click. You can actually follow me on the app at jpeterson8 to see all my lineups. New user offer. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with Prize Picks. Clickable link to download the app, of course, is in the comments and description. Let's talk wide receiver again. How about Jeff Caldwell, wide receiver out of Cincinnati? Actually, a guy we have not talked much about. And I think a big reason for that is the production this last year at Cincy. 478 yards, 6 touchdowns. A little bit of a disappointing year for him, although I don't love Brendan Swordsby, their quarterback at Cincy. So I don't think he was given the best arm talent there. But they bring him in after the 2024 season with Lindenwood, where he goes for over 1,000 yards. They're looking at him like, hey, he's going to continue that trajectory, come in and dominate in the Big 12, and he didn't necessarily do that, right? Same thing as hey, people are expecting a guy from the Sun Belt to jump up in the NFL. Kind of same thought for Jeff Caldwell going to Cincinnati. But the intriguing factor is the dude was perfect in his relative athletic score. A 10.0. 6'4", definitely intriguing for his fitness wide receiver room. Runs a 4.3 40, 42-inch vertical. I mean, this dude is like Randy Moss light with his skill set. I'm going to say the same things about Caldwell as I did with Hurst. They do not address wide receiver on day 1 or day 2. Express interest here in Caldwell on day 3 for Baltimore. Let's go back to the defensive side of the football now. How about Eric Gentry, edge rusher out of USC, was technically listed as an outside linebacker for the Trojans. Obviously, he's going to be an edge rusher in the National Football League. Same difference, honestly. Really good year production-wise for Gentry. 76 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 2 pass breakups, and 5 forced fumbles. The hard thing is he didn't really score as well as people thought he would in the relative athletic score. Now, obviously, got to take these with a grain of salt. They only mean so much. But he's a massive individual. 6'8", or is that 6'6"? Excuse me. 6'6" it is. 35-inch vertical, 10-foot broad jump, 40-yard dash at 4.8. All of those really good metrics for that position. And we know that edge is a need. And Jesse Minter loves tall, athletic edges on the defensive side of the ball. So if this is a guy that people are thinking is rising up draft boards, I could see him as somebody that, Anthony Weaver and Jesse Minter might have interest in. But of the last 3 guys we talked about, Hurst, Caldwell, and Gentry, I think he's probably the least likely. Let's talk about a day 3 possibility. How about Barika Kpeenu, the running back out of North Dakota State University? ESPN talked about Kpeenu and said, look, while his 4.68 second 40-yard dash at North Dakota State's pro day will cause some pause, Kpeenu gained 10 or more yards on 17% of his runs this past season. He had 2 100-yard rushing games last season in which he carried the ball fewer than 15 times. And for Baltimore, Barika has a 7th-round pick or UDFA written all over him. Okay, I don't think that they're going to spend a draft pick 6th round or lower on a running back that ran, a 4.6 second 40-yard dash. But this running back room is very, very interesting for Baltimore this season because you got Derrick Henry, right? I don't think any of us think Derrick Henry is going to slow down this next year. But also, I think it'd be ridiculous and ignorant of us if we all just felt like he was going to go on forever and never, ever slow down. Outside of him, I don't think you have a running back that you would trust to take over a starting role. Is that Barika? I don't know. Probably needs to get a little faster, add a little bit of later speed. I think they would like the way he carries the ball with toughness, though. Probably reminds them a little bit of Derrick Henry in his own right. And the Ravens love adding running backs as UDFAs. They added a few last year. Which one of these players do you want the Ravens to take? Make your voice heard and let me know your answer down below in the comments section. Hey, we're going to be live again tomorrow. Reminder, we're also going to be live again today, later. So make sure to join us. You can follow me on socials, Twitter, Instagram. I'm on both platforms, and see you next time.